As most readers of 4x4 Australia would know, I am a big Landy fan. In fact, this particular vehicle here I feel very privileged to be driving. The Defender 90 Heritage Edition is the vehicle I've had set as my desktop pattern on my computer for the last 12 months. The thing's finally in Australia. There's only 54 of them, and there's only one on the press fleet, and I get to drive one, and I'm a very happy bloke. I've been driving this car for a couple of days on the road, and I've done a little bit of gravel, even though we've got to be very careful with this one. But you know, it pitches fore and aft. It's a bit twitchy in the steering. But you've got to expect that with a short wheelbase vehicle. But you know, people who are going to buy this thing, they're not going to buy it for its performance on the road. They're not even going to buy this example for its performance off the road, which it's got loads of. What they're going to do is they're probably just going to collect the thing, put it away somewhere and watch it appreciate in value. I reckon of the 50 odd vehicles that Land Rover Australia is selling in Australia, you know, these things are going to get snapped up real quick. But what can you expect on a bumpy dirt road like this one? Well, with a short wheelbase like this, you got to expect a pretty bumpy ride. But having said that, with the coil springs, it's reasonably comfortable. It might look like the camera's bouncing around a lot here, and we're bouncing around inside this vehicle, but you know, considering the wheelbase and the high ride height, this thing rides pretty well off-road and also on the dirt. 1948 to 2015, that's 67 years that Land Rover has been building essentially what has become the Defender. And this vehicle here is the culmination of that 67 years of production, the final Land Rover Defender. Now if you want to get your hands on one of these, a Defender 90 limited edition, you better be quick because there's only 54 of them coming to Australia and they're probably just about all snapped up now. In fact, despite the retail price being a recommended 55 grand or somewhere about there, I've already seen one of these advertised online for 95 grand. So I reckon it'll be a pretty good investment. Okay, so this Defender 90 Heritage is finished in a fantastic paint. It's a beautiful metallic, it's called Unique Grasmere Green. But it's actually based upon the same green of the first Land Rover. Now that first Land Rover was painted this particular green because after the war there was plenty of RAF cockpit paint left over. So that's the paint that they grabbed and that's the paint that they used. It's like, that's also one of the reasons that they built these things out of aluminium. Steel was hard to come by after the Second World War. There was plenty of aluminium about as aircraft production wound down. So, you know, there's a bit of history for you, and this thing is still made of aluminium. There are a lot of other features on this Defender 90 that make it stand out from your standard Defender 90. Other than the paint and the Huey logos, there's Heritage logos all throughout. There's Heritage logos on the mud flaps, on the interior. And it's got a fantastic interior, this thing. There's a little bit of leather in there. There's a nice finish on the cloth that you don't get on the standard Defender. And you get this fantastic Alpine sound system with a super subwoofer sitting in the center console. Now you might think that because this Defender 90 Heritage is a limited edition model, the last of the line, that they went to special effort on the production line to make sure they got it just right. But I can assure you, this Land Rover is authentic as any other Defender. It's still got pretty average panel gaps. It's very noisy to drive. It's got hardly any sound deadening. Even on the spare wheel, the studs have got a bit of rust pre-built into them. So, you know, it's just like any other Defender, but it is a very limited edition model. You put the whole lot together and this vehicle looks fantastic. It's not just the color of the body, it's not just the Heritage grille, the Heritage light surrounds, it's not just the stamped green wheels that match the color of the body. It looks like a really old vehicle, but in a nice sort of kind of modern retro way. So on the road, this thing, it's very interesting to drive. It's not like most modern four-wheel drives. It bounces around a lot, it pitches fore and aft, it's got a very short wheelbase, there's a fair bit of body roll in the corners. But it does have sway bars, you do get used to it, it's not that bad at all. The weight's down quite low, it handles actually quite nicely. You just got to get used to it. Performance-wise, it's got a 2.2 litre turbo diesel engine. It's got loads of torque. This thing works really well, and it's mated to a 6-speed manual transmission, so you got lots of gearing and it goes really well. Not only does it perform better on road than you might expect, it actually gets quite good fuel consumption too. We've got better than 10 litres per 100k out of these things before, and there's no reason we shouldn't get the same out of this example. Of course, not everything's perfect with this vehicle. Despite its short 93-inch wheelbase, it's actually got a 13.4 metre turning circle, so this thing ain't manoeuvrable. And the other thing you have to be careful about, you know, despite its compact dimensions, it's actually quite tall. So if you're living in the city and you want to drive one of these around town, you got to remember when you go to the Woolies or the Coles car park, you got to check that height or you're going to hit the roof. So you've got seating for 4 in this Defender 90. There's a reasonable amount of room in the back with the seats folded up, and when they're folded down, you can actually walk between them. So passengers, they can actually access those seats through the tailgate. So why is production coming to an end? Well, there are a few reasons. Emissions standards, safety standards, but also the fact that, you know, this thing's hand built on the Land Rover production line. So it's not a very efficient way to build a car in this day and age. And we don't know what the replacement vehicle is going to be, but you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to be fully automated on the production line and they're going to pump them out in their thousands.